Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
No, thank you. And I really do thank her. She's so nice to me. One of the nicest people here. We're all nice, but boy, oh boy. And I really don't want it. I just don't even feel like it. I don't even crave it. It's so interesting. You don't think as much about food. Now, having said that, I did have some M&Ms this morning, and I had some bread with jelly, right? And after I ate that stuff, I said, okay, all right, lay off food for the rest of the day if you can, and I can. Sometimes, in my old ways. All right, now why are they putting M&Ms on the ground for the Kyle Busch death? I guess he was sponsored by Mars, the Mars Candy Company. It just doesn't look that good. They got flowers outside a building. You know, it's one of those makeshift memorials. And they got all this Kyle Busch paraphernalia. I'm really sorry. Yep, M&M's, there he is. Wearing M&M's on his jersey. It's kind of cool, actually. The M&M, not the jersey, the suit. These guys wear suits. Anybody remember Talladega Nights? And the French guy was sponsored by Perrier. And the American guy was sponsored by Wonder Bread. That was really great. Do we even have Wonder Bread anymore? Why was Wonder Bread such a staple when we were growing up, right? It was like everywhere. And people were so into the Wonder Bread. And but not so much anymore. I have a feeling it may not be around. White bread is not, people don't think white bread is all that good for you. If you don't mind, what I would like to do, because whenever he talks again, and I gave it short shrift the other day, Jeff Bezos is super duper rich. Now, the first couple of words that came out of his mouth, I'm like, I don't think that is your business. And the thing about it is, these guys, they get so rich and sometimes they think they're an expert in everything, but they're not. He was very good at delivering books, and then he got very good at delivering a lot of other things. And now we're asking for his point of view on climate change and the rest. I don't know. Jeff Bezos, although when you do business at that level, at that macro level, at that global level, you do find out things and you do get to see things and have access to things that a lot of us, don't have access to. So I kind of get that. I do. Kind of makes sense. But at the same time, don't get too big on me, Jeff. Don't get too big on us. All right? And sooner or later, they may have to break that up. Right? Does anybody remember when they broke up ITT, ATT back in the 80s? Because it was a monopoly. And it's very hard to compete against something as big as Amazon, which has, well, curiously, fewer and fewer employees. They're bringing in all kinds of robots. The headcount, the business gets bigger, the headcount gets smaller because they got all these robots. And they have all these guys on the pedicabs. Have you seen those pedicabs? They're very, very, I don't know what the hell's going on. Is it a bicycle? Is it a motorcycle? And they look incredibly flimsy and vulnerable. I don't think that's a good way to go around. I would not want to be in one of those things. It looks like a bicycle souped up, but then again, I never see these guys pedaling, which is, I also now see these skateboards. I don't know how they propel them, but these skateboards are not, they're not kicking. They're somehow motorized, and they go very, very fast. Folks, sometimes I look around New York City, there are a lot of hazards here. There are more hazards here than there were just a few years ago. These bikes, these skateboards, they go 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. They will kill you if they hit you, and they drive around with total impunity. They go the wrong way. They go the right way. They're like kamikaze guys. They're almost begging for something really bad to happen. And now, I am paranoid. When I step outside, if I'm not on a sidewalk, I am looking and looking and looking. I'm also worried about the crime. I'm also worried about being sucker punched. And the cops have been told to stand down and, don't get involved. It's really it's a toxic stew we got going on here. So my Jeff Bezos thing, okay, we're working on that. I think it's important that we check in with the richest man in the world. It's also important that we honor those who gave everything on this Memorial Day weekend. And I think of four guys who are close to me. Each died in a plane crash, separate plane crashes. And the ones I think about, number one is Mark Sharp. He was my on-wing instructor in the early 90s in Meridian, Mississippi. The man taught me how to fly jets. And while I knew him, like while I was still there, he was taking off with a student, and they had some sort of an engine failure, adverse yaw. They ejected, and when you eject, the guy in the front seat gets out like a half second before the guy in the back seat. And it was too late for the guy in the back seat, my buddy there, Mark Sharp. And he ejected basically into the ground, right? And that'll kill you immediately. I remember going to the memorial service. It was really bizarre. Like, hey, Mark Notso is dead? Yep. And then a little while after that, Glenn Blaisdell, guy from Indiana, really interesting, funny guy, hilarious. We were good pals. He died at the age of 26, landing his F-18 in Jacksonville, Florida in 1995, I think it was. And that was another shocker. He and I were winged. We graduated from flight school together only a few months earlier. Let's see. After that, it was Dale Mulkey the following year, 1996. And Dale taught me how to fly low-altitude tactics in a Harrier jet. That means going very fast and very low. Back then, we went down to as low as 100 feet, 450 knots. And we called it minimum altitude clearance. And then we also did a lot of low-altitude training, LAT. They called it LAT, at 200 feet. Later on, they bumped it up to 300 feet and 500 feet. I wonder how low they're going now, but we were low and fast and very afraid. You got to be, this whole thing, although that guy was fearless, you got to have some fear. You got to have some fear. Healthy. Fear is healthy. You know what we called guys who didn't have fear? NAFOD. No apparent fear of death. That's a bad thing. You want to be very afraid of death, and you fly within the parameters. The parameters are cool enough as it is. You're in the box. You're in the envelope. No need to go outside the envelope. 200 feet or 100 feet, 500 miles per hour, that's fast enough. I don't need to go 550 feet. I don't have to go 20 feet. I'll stay at 100 feet. That's cool enough for me. So he teaches me how to do all this stuff. And one of the other things is wild. When you fly low altitude in formation, you fly actually a mile abreast and you turn as a unit. It's so interesting. And you signal with your microphone, and you don't even have to talk. You can fly for hundreds of miles without talking on the radio. And then you attack the target. Boom! And then you go home. You beat feet back to the ship. So he's flying one day, a full payload of bombs on his Harrier. He's flying over the Chocolate Mountains, where I myself would later have a plane crash. He's flying over the Chocolate Mountains. He's getting ready to drop a bomb at night. And before he drops the bomb, you know what happens? The bomb goes off right next to him on the wing. Boom. The fusing was all screwed up. It's interesting. I remember up until that point, and I had dropped plenty of bombs, plenty of live ordnance. It never even occurred to me remotely that this thing could, it was just an object. I knew it was going to blow up when it hit the ground. I never was afraid of it. And then I became quite apprehensive around bombs, a healthy apprehension. And the list goes on. Steve Freeman is another buddy of mine. He died flying an A-4 Skyhawk. And then I know a lot of guys who lived but were banged up. My buddy Chris Hodges landed on an aircraft carrier at night And I don't remember what happened, but I remember that damn thing was on fire and about to go overboard. He ejected. And guess what? Chris Hodges, who was 6'2", is now 6'1". His back was compressed so much. Oh, no! Oh, no! Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has resigned. Why? What in the hell happened? Breaking news, Tulsi Gabbard has resigned. Could you get Roger Stone back on the phone? Oh, no, this is terrible. We love her. I know they were trying to force her out, and now she's gone. She was uncovering so much. Now, what could have brought this on? What could have brought this on? What happened here? All right, let me make some phone calls. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I know that there was a campaign. Look, she may have been ambivalent about our actions in Iran, and this whole narrative that's emerged about how Israel forced us into it and all that stuff. I think that's fake news. Tulsi Gabbard. Now, granted, we're also a year and a half into the administration. People go, people come, people go, but you don't just walk away from these jobs. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, former Democrat, ran for president in 2020 as a Democrat, shut down big time. Kamala Harris, one of the greatest moments in politics. I'm going to find that. Play it for you in a minute. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of the National Intelligence, has just resigned. Now, there was a stir the other day that the Central Intelligence Agency had raided the Directorate of National Intelligence and confiscated all kinds of documents that they said she should not have. Turned out it wasn't quite a raid. It was more of a turf war dispute, but boxes did leave. Let's see here. A Qatari negotiation team is in Tehran on Friday and Saturday to support the U.S. to reach a final deal that would end the war and address outstanding issues with Iran. That's from that Trey Yingst character who's always over there. Trey Yingst is, I don't know, man. Sometimes I find him to be a bit of a worrywart and a bit of a pants wetter. You see these guys all the time. You got to remember where you are, and you got to remember who you are. And just because there are bombs going off all around you doesn't mean you have to start panicking. If you can keep your head when all else is going to hell, that's good. If you're fighting a war, it's also good if you're reporting a war. I remembered that. It kicked in, by the way. It kicked in. I remember when I first got to Iraq, I was there for several days, and we were on the move. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to shave. And I started to look like, and then what am I doing this? Why am I not shaving? I got to shave. I can shave. I got enough time to shave. Just because you're in hell doesn't mean you have to look like hell. If you're heading into summer without a medical emergency kit, you're taking a risk. Most people don't think about it until it's too late. Summer colds linger and can turn into sinus infections that last for weeks. Getting sick right before vacation can derail everything. And when you're traveling, finding a doctor and pharmacy is stressful. So that's why I ordered a medical emergency kit. It is like having urgent care in a pharmacy right at home. It includes essential prescriptions like amoxicillin and a generic Z-Pak to treat a wide range of common and serious illnesses. So if you wake up sick, at home or on the road, you'll already have what you need. No waiting for your doctor, no hours at urgent care, no pharmacy lines, no copays. Just match your symptoms to the right prescriptions in your guidebook or call their telemedicine doctor standing by. Start on your bed sooner and feel better faster. Every home needs at least one medical emergency kit. Order yours online in minutes and it's shipped to your door. And save $45 off with my promo code Greg at urgentcarekit.com/Greg. That's urgentcarekit.com/Greg. Remember the promo code Greg at urgentcarekit.com/Greg. And we'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
is the Greg Kelly Show.
So awesome. Isn't that great? Now, that is an updated twist on an old classic, Private Eyes by Hall & Oates. Came out in 1982. But this is, what's this guy's name? Party Pupils. He does remixes, and he's a DJ, and that is great. That was great. Let me hear that again, please, if you don't mind. Dance your ass off. I would totally dance my ass off to this. All right. That's beautiful. Now, let me hear another one. I think they got other classics that they updated. And Party Pupils. Remember that. Party Pupils. Hit it. Oh, Brandy. Holy gosh. Wow. Oh, man, the summer is here. These guys kick ass. Woo! That was so great. That old-fashioned Brandy song, which I do like in its original form. Man, that guy was really married to the sea, as they say. She was a very... Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. Hold on, everything. Hold on. Don't you be so troublesome to me. So, she has cancer, Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, no. So that's why she's leaving. Cancer. Well, for months, there was a pressure campaign. Oh, man. I hope it's not serious. You know, cancer these days is not a death sentence, right? It's not a death sentence. People survive all the time and they come back from it. Right? They come back all the time from that. I hope you... Do we have another kick-ass song? Have we gone through all three of them? Well, four of them? We got one more? Okay, let's try this one. Dedicated to Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, yeah! This is what I've been looking for. We can do... All right, partypupils.com. You guys are awesome. I hope Tulsi Gabbard gets well soon.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, some really exciting things are happening here. Oops. We're back with the Vice President of News, Lee Harris. He's got the whole station talking, and he's got the whole country, as far as the radio industry, talking, because we're going to do some revolutionary things here. Lee Harris, Vice President of News at WABC. Welcome. How are you?
Pretty good. It's kind of a busy day here because tonight at midnight we launch the Worldwide News Network. And we didn't have a ton of time to put this together, so a lot of last-minute details to attend to. But at midnight tonight, we will take the place of what had been the CBS radio network. That goes out of business tonight at 11:31 p.m. After 99 years. CBS has decided they no longer wish to be in the radio business. That's their prerogative, of course. But we've decided it's a great business, and we will take up where they left off. And we indeed have hired some of the people who were making the news on the CBS radio network, the anchors, some of the reporters and producers, and they're coming to work for us.
Damn. Awesome. What are we going to do for those 29 minutes? 11:31 to midnight. No, I'm only kidding. That's very exciting. Now we're going to call it the Worldwide News Network.
Right, and that is because our boss, our collective boss, John Catsimatidis, has ambitions to spread America's story to the world through the Worldwide News Network, kind of picking up where the Voice of America and Radio Free Europe left off, but not necessarily in a propagandistic manner, but rather, the same way we do talk radio and we do news here. And just you've gone to Europe, I'm sure, on multiple occasions, and found that people there sometimes have very odd ideas about what goes on here. And this would be a way to perhaps correct some of those perceptions.
Worldwide News Network. Awesome. So what are we going to call it something for short? Does it have an abbreviation like WWN? Worldwide WWNN?
WW. We do the two W's because it flows better. We'll not say that on the air. That's more for internal comms. We refer to it as WWNN. But if people want to call it that, that's fine.
Okay.
We didn't go with the obvious, which would have been CBS for the CATS broadcasting system. But apparently the lawyers checked that out, and that wasn't going to work.
Tell us some of the... Well, first of all, how about you, Lee Harris? You got a voice, first of all, you're a handsome guy. I don't want to say you have a voice for radio. They usually say that to people who are like unattractive. Ha ha ha. You're a very presentable person and you got a great voice. Have you been on radio?
A little bit. Did about 30 years in the morning on 1010 Wins.
A little bit.
People remember me for that. Kind of a blip in my career.
Oh my goodness gracious. You know what? You were. That was you all the time. That was you.
And it was a great job except for the part where you had to get up at 2:15 in the morning to do it.
You said some interesting things over the years. Some beautiful things. And you had kind of interesting observations at the end of a report. Some people do it and they can't pull it off. You pulled it off.
You know what I used to think? I'd get stuck behind garbage trucks trying to get to work, particularly on Bleecker Street. And I said, these guys are out there making the city run, and in my own little way, I'm doing the same. And so the idea of contributing to the life of the city was meaningful to me. Now, look, if you're on the police force, it's inarguable that you're doing that. But when you're sitting in front of a microphone, it's not as clear. And yet it occurred to me that that was indeed what I was doing. And I felt better about myself because some days the news was a little silly.
Lee, but did you work in the executive ranks? You strike me very much as an executive, and in a good way. And not all broadcasters are executives. Certainly not all executives are broadcasters. It looks like you're doing both. Do you have a lot of executive experience?
I was a radio station owner and operator, and executive work there included mowing the lawn, which I occasionally did wearing a suit and tie, which weirded people out. But no, I had been in management. In fact, when I went to WINS, I hadn't been on the air in about 10 years, and I kind of faked up a demo tape because I put them on and said, they're not that good. I could get on weekends there. And indeed I did.
When did you start there?
1993.
And wow, that's really cool. Who are these CBS people, and when are they going to start showing up?
They will be they've been in the building, and they will start showing up tonight at 10 o'clock to get ready for the midnight show. Michael Wallace will be our morning anchor. A guy named Bill Rakoff will do middays. Cooper Lawrence, who you may have crossed paths with at Fox at one time or another.
She's really into dogs, right?
She likes dogs.
Yeah.
She'll be doing nights.
And how will this be executed? What will the experience be like for the listener?
So for the WABC listener in New York, they will hear 3 minutes of national news and then 3 minutes of local news. And I think a lot of the other stations that carry you around the country will do something similar. They could take a fourth minute of news if they'd like as well, another minute at the bottom of the hour. But these are news capsules. We're not doing long form. What we're really doing is setting up shows like yours so that when you come on and talk about the news, people know the stories that you've referred to, the redistricting case, Ebola, etc. We give them the facts, and then you can come on and give your thoughts about whether or not you like Ebola.
Well, I can't believe it. Right now, they're accusing the Trump administration of going a little bit too far when it comes to containing Ebola. He didn't do enough, they say, to contain COVID, but he's going overboard in containing Ebola, which I believe one of the symptoms is bleeding from your eyes. So I think any measure is probably a prudent measure to contain Ebola.
First thing we need to do is prohibit the sale, importation, and ingestion of fruit bats, African fruit bats, because that's the vector for the disease. And I think we've got a pretty good handle on that.
Fruit bats. Okay, that's on the list. What are the other things?
Not to be confused with Fruit Loops.
Do you know the Ebola River? It's named for the Ebola River in Africa. Yes. And the funny thing is, they gave President Trump such a hard time for calling it the China virus. I mean, Lyme disease comes from Connecticut, Lyme, Connecticut. It's just amazing to me how negatively he is portrayed. Everything. But you guys are going to try to play it straight.
We will do that. One thing that we will do, I don't know if you've noticed this, but previously when a president was in office, he got an honorific on second reference. In other words, President Trump in the first reference, Mr. Trump perhaps in the second, the president. And with President Trump, there has been a tendency to just say Trump, which they never did with any other president. So one of our style book rules at the Worldwide News Network is that he is to get an honorific, just like every other president did on all references.
It's interesting. Sometimes I think for some of us, because I will find myself saying Trump, And it's born out of not contempt, certainly. I love the guy, but familiarity, and approachability. Like, he is everywhere all the time. So when someone is everywhere all the time, you do become familiar, and familiarity sometimes brings on informality. And but there are people out there, some broadcasters, who are sticking it to him when they omit that.
Yes, you never heard Obama without an honorific, or Biden, or even Bush usually still got the honorific. It seems to be unique to President Trump. Now, on your program, you're free to refer to him however you wish. This is
the grand, high, exalted, imperial, mystic ruler.
If you want to go that direction, but in the news, we follow certain conventions.
Well, do you think, let me ask you this, some of those conventions could probably be blown up, and I think you're blowing them up in a good way. Like, with Twitter, people expect, you don't have to say, after the break, or, I don't know, sometimes I feel like language is, it confuses more than it illuminates. And sometimes, not here, but other stations, it's overwritten, especially in television. You ever notice that?
Yes. One of the things they like to do is over-explain. When I was taught how to do this for a living, the orders were, assume the listener knows nothing. And, I was early 20s, and I go, yeah, they're all idiots. I've got the teletype. I'm the smart guy. And then I realized very often the listener knew more than I did, and certainly made more money than I did. So you have to give them some credit. You don't have to over-explain everything every time. You don't have to go, Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul of New York. You can refer to her as Governor Hochul.
I refer to her as the bucktooth bimbo from Buffalo.
Or that.
And I'm surprised. They may ask me to dial that back, and maybe I'll have to, but right now it totally fits. It really does. And she just loves power. She loves wearing the jacket. She loves the mansion. You all right? Well, Lee Harris, I am thrilled for you and this position and what we're doing here. So 12 a.m., 12:01. When is the exact time? Because that's history.
Straight up.
12 o'clock.
The witching hour.
Wow. All right. Well, what's going to happen? Is there a jingle? I hear you're really good at the jingles.
There will be a musical introduction, and a man with a very big voice will announce that the news is on.
That sounds like it could be you.
It's not me.
No?
No, we got a professional for that.
Shush, give me a break. You got the perfect voice for this. You're like the golden voice. Who are you going to use? Not you?
So in showbiz, we call these imaging guys, right? And the trick is for them to talk like this, but to make it sound like that's the way they talk. If you do that or I do that, it sounds like we're exaggerating. When our guy does it, he sounds like he just talks that way.
All right. So who is he?
His name is Jim Merkel.
Where is he?
I don't know.
Wow. I know these guys are kind of mysterious. They do their own thing. All right. So he introduces everything, and then what happens?
Then the news comes on. Like it comes on every day, everywhere, and came on CBS for almost 100 years, but not after 11:31 tonight.
Are they going to say goodbye and they're going to, we don't care. It doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no coordination between us and them, right?
No, all we've done is import a lot of their soon-to-be former employees who right now are at the broadcast center on West 57th Street in New York holding a wake for the radio network.
Do you remember Christopher Glenn by any chance?
Of course.
He died, didn't he?
He did.
He was an interesting guy. I grew up listening to him. He had that little television snippet in the news. News, yep. And I was one of those kids. Well, this is exciting. Lee Harris, congratulations. I know this is taking a lot of work and a lot of planning and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but you've done it. And tonight is history at 12 midnight. And thank you.
You'll hear it here. I have to go do a dry run, a rehearsal.
What do you have to rehearse?
Oh,
you know how to read the news.
Some technical stuff.
Technical. Throw in the switch. Well, it's going to be great. And I know these things, we got to make sure no snafus. Good luck tonight. Lee Harris, the Worldwide News Network begins. What is today? What is tomorrow's date? May what?
23rd.
May 23, 2026. Wow. All right. 100 years, hopefully. May it last 100 years plus. Be right back, everybody. Congratulations, Lee.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, the number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Hey, when is Election Day in L.A.? When is it for real? Spencer Pratt. Wouldn't that be? That would shock the world and bode something very different from what we've been hearing regarding midterm elections. Yes, Rick in New Jersey somewhere. Hello.
Yes, Greg. How you doing? I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. You mentioned summertime beach swimming and so forth. You should go down with your wife and kids to the southern New Jersey shore, Cape May, Wildwood, Stone Harbor, Avalon. In the summertime, the beach there, the ocean can get up to 80 degrees, and there's dolphins most of the summer. And it's a totally different thing than northern New Jersey or Long Island. Very different.
Yeah, interesting. You know, I only went to Seaside Heights once when I was in college. And to be honest, I didn't like it. It was Guido Central. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, my God, let me out of here. I'm talking about like the nightclub scene. And it was very much like, Snooki and The Situation and that crew 15 years prior. But now that I'm a family man and you tell me the water is warm and I can avoid the nightclubs, obviously, easily. That's not what I do anymore. It sounds great to me. All right. So what's the place I should hit? What's the number? Give me one place.
Cape May County, Wildwoods, and Stone Harbor, Avalon. Those are all the beach towns in the southern tip of New Jersey, which is, by the way, south of the Mason-Dixon line.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
Really? Huh. Yeah, I guess if you go due west, you hit like Maryland and stuff like that. How about that? South of the Mason-Dixon. All right, thanks for the tip. I appreciate it, pal. We'll see you later. Susan in Manhattan. Yeah, hi.
Hi, Greg. You're amazing. I just want to congratulate you and the WABC family on your expansion to the world with the worldwide news. You're going to be broadcasting the truth, common sense, and all the things that people really need to know. And I commend you all, and I'm very excited for you all and for us and for the world.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? Thank you. I mean, radio expanding in a place at a time when radio is contracting everywhere else. It's very cool, and it's a privilege, actually, to be part of it. Thank you for that, Susan. Hey, I've been promising this for a while, and I haven't done it yet. Let's hear a little bit from the super duper rich guy, Bezos. You buy anything from Amazon there, Susan?
I do.
Of course you do.
A lot of the stores are closing up. I live actually walking distance from your studio, and a lot of the stores are gone. So
I know.
How do we get things?
Yeah, and there's nowhere to shop. I used to like going to the mall and just browsing, And now when you go, you're not seeing everything. I went to Best Buy and I wanted to see the projectors, and they had like 3, and I know there are 4,000 varieties. So maybe I should have gone to J&R. Is that still around, J&R? I don't think so. Anyway, thank you very much, Susan. Let's listen to Jeff Bezos here, okay? Let's see if we can get some advice from a super-duper, mega-successful rich guy.
It feels almost impossible to pick up a newspaper without reading a headline about wealth in America, about the billionaire class, about wealth inequality and policy and everything else. And it's taken a uniquely critical turn, I think. And I'm so curious, before we even get into everything else, what you think about that right now.
Well, first of all, Andrew, I'm glad you're asking the question. I think it's a really important topic. And I think it's an important one to discuss because I see the same thing you do. You see it in a bunch of headlines, you see it in a bunch of places. And I have been thinking about like what is driving this? Because it does seem different from 10 years ago, and I think what's going on is that it's kind of a tale of two economies. So you have a bunch of people in this country who are doing really well, but you also have a bunch of people in this country who are struggling to pay rent, groceries, and so what's happening here is politicians are using the kind of age-old technique. So there's this tale of two economies, and they're using this age-old technique of picking a villain and pointing fingers. But the problem is that doesn't solve anything. And so, like, if you want to help the group of people who are struggling, you have to figure out real root causes and solutions, and that takes skill. You know, it's like the way if we have a problem at Amazon, you know, the way we would fix it is we would go in and we'd do the 5 whys and we'd try to get to a root cause. We'd try to find a root fix. And then when we fix it at the root, you're fixing it forever. It's a real solution. And what we don't do, because it doesn't work, is just point fingers and blame people. It might feel good for 10 seconds, but doesn't accomplish anything. And so what could you really do? So, like,
do you have a plan?
I have some ideas. I have some places to start. So,
stop for a second. What's this 5 whys thing? They sit around, why is this happening? Why is this happening? That's kind of interesting, actually, when you think about it. Because when something goes wrong, we normally, like, who made the mistake, right? Somebody must have screwed something up. And that's about as deep as we often get as human beings. You know? It's Carlos's fault. It's Phil's fault. And it probably is most of the time. But let's go deeper than that. I'm only kidding. Okay. You got to, if you got your team around and you actually said, okay, so why did this happen? Sure, somebody threw the wrong switch, but why? Why? How? Why? And then you go deeper, 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 and then you figure out a system fix rather than just pointing your finger and say, that guy made a mistake. Quite frankly, this harkens back to the military. The guy may have made a mistake, but why was he in a position to make that mistake? How did that happen? What are the other failures, systemic failures? How do we make it so it never happens again? They say the NATOPS manual, which is the manual on how to fly a plane, you know what we say? It's written in blood because of all the mistakes that were made. And we take that and we write a manual so there are fewer mistakes and fewer opportunities to make mistakes. Very interesting. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?